So throughout the year, we Jews specifically, obviously, are gifted cycles of different festivals. And every festival, every celebration, every holiday kind of set the frame for our life, punctuated in each season with a specific theme or a specific spiritual practice that we are invited into. Every holiday, every celebration, an occasion for a deeper spiritual encounter. And all these festivals, the list of all the festivals are, among other things, described in this week's Torah portion. It's called Emor. And as they are presented through the Torah portion, God speaks to Moses and says, these are the Moadim, Moadei Adonai, the appointed times. Literally, that's what the word Moadim means. The appointed times for the eternal, for spirit. It's like in every season, we have an appointment with God. Those are the appointed times. You have to put them in your calendar, and then they give you directions where to find spirit. My GPS doesn't work. So there's a time for liberation, that's Passover. There's a time for revelation, and that's Shavuot. There's a time for atoning around Rosh Hashanah and the days of awe. And then there is a time for practicing dying on Yom Kippur. Every year we go through those cycles. It seems there is a time for everything under the annual circling of the sun. As Kohelet, have you heard of Kohelet? Kohelet is a beautiful name. It's mistranslated, as most things are, as Ecclesiastes. He's got his own book, Ecclesiastes, but that's not his name. Kohelet it's the same root of the word Kehillah. And Kehillah means community or gathering. So Kohelet is not Ecclesiastes. I don't even know why that's got to be its translation, but it means the gatherer. The gatherer. We are gathered by the gatherer. And it's him, the gatherer, Kohelet, who reminds us that there's a time for everything under the sun as the sun circles, as we circle around the sun throughout our Jewish year. I've been really sitting with Ecclesiastes, with the gatherer, not just this past 10 days to 2 weeks, of course, but really over the last few months. And I've found his teaching especially powerful at this time in my life, and obviously in these last 10 days to 2 weeks. Kohelet starts, you may know that first verse, second verse actually. Hevel Havalim, Amar Kohelet, Hevel Havalim, Hakol Hevel. I'm sure you know that sentence. It means, or it usually is translated, vanities of vanities, says the preacher. I don't know why they got a preacher there. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Or you can find alternatively, futility of futilities, says the gatherer. Futility of futilities, all is futility. It's like a a Borg thing. Resistance is futile. They get something right about that, actually. We have to revisit Star Trek. But it's not exactly either vanity or futility. See, translations. Translations will never give you what you can discover for yourself if you just learn a little Hebrew. So the word hevel, it's also good if you have a dictionary of the Torah, which you can find online. The word hevel in Hebrew, that is translated either in most cases as vanity, something vain, in vain, or futile, futility, actually doesn't mean either one of these words. It literally means breath or vapor. I mean, it's far from futility, vanity, or even meaninglessness. Some people translate that word as meaningless, and it's not what the gatherer is trying to teach us. What the gatherer is trying to teach us is that everything is breath, everything is vapor, in the sense that everything is empty of any solidity, and everything is empty of any permanence. Everything is empty of real substance. All we are ever building in our lives are just sandcastles. That's what the teacher, the gatherer, is trying to teach us. Not to get stuck with stuff and things and believing that we're building whatever it is we're building that is going to last a millennia or 2 or 3 or whatever, right? To kind of let go of the future, which is a beautiful spiritual practice, to let go of the future in order that we can live in the present. Because our minds, if you pay attention, are all future-oriented, future-driven. And Kohelet is teaching us, wonderful, and don't get attached. Don't get stuck. Don't get mired in your mind's illusions and desires. Everything is vapor. Everything is here and gone, here and gone. Nothing ever remains the same. Everything is empty, but not empty in the sense of nothingness. Everything is empty of solidity. Like nothing ever stays. Everything comes and goes. This moment, and then the next, and then the next. And that we make believe that what we are creating and building in our lives are, solid ground. Everything is sandcastles. Even the homes we may own, we believe we own them, but until we pay the last month payment, the bank owns it. It's just an illusion. We say, it's my house. No, it's not. It's the bank until further notice. But we live under those illusions, like there's things solid in our life. This house, it's something solid, concrete. It's mine. It's mine. And we get attached to the mine-ness of things. And we assign them realness, reality, where in fact it's here now and it'll be gone later. I first actually learned that paradigm of the sandcastles in our lives, that we are all building sandcastles. When I was about 13 or 14 and my parents divorced. When my parents divorced, my father fell apart. My mom left, and he just, I think, never really recovered. but he stopped caring and his business fell apart and he had to close it, declare bankruptcy. The problem is that he had mortgaged our home tied to the business to keep the business afloat. So we lost the business, we lost my mom, and we lost our home. And really over just a few months we were, I'm going to say, literally homeless. My dad, my brother, and I. And we were rescued by my grandmother on my father's side, and we lived at in my grandparents' very small apartment for too long. Until my grandmother got sick, and my dad's like, okay, we got to move out now. But it gave me really that sense that sandcastles. You can think that you building a life, a family, a business, you have a home. And it was really clear to me in my teenage years that that was just all an illusion. And then obviously other times of my life that teaching came around, as it happens to many of us, when we lose someone or something that we thought will be forever, or at least for a while. And I obviously recently learned it again through my own divorce. And then even more recently through the death of our friend Jerry Peretz this past week. Sandcastles, that's what Kohelet should have written. Sandcastles upon sandcastles, says the gatherer. Sandcastles upon sandcastles, everything is but sandcastles. It would be easy then for each and every one of us hearing these words, reading Kohelet, to, just fall into nihilism. So easy. But that would be misunderstanding what Kohelet was talking about. So to help us rescue Kohelet, I'm going to bring in Nietzsche. It's never been done before. So fasten your seatbelts. Nietzsche is in the house, friends. And I'm going to tell you a story that Nietzsche wrote about. He had a story about sandcastles. And it's a story that I learned about as I was wrestling with the sandcastles in my life during a therapy session a couple months ago. My therapist, is a Jungian therapist, just brought that story, and I hated him for it. Of course. So here's the story. Three people are building sandcastles at the beach, knowing full well that within hours the tides will rise and erase all that they might have built. It is unavoidable. Not a trace of what they will spend hours building, what might seem a lifetime building, will remain. So the first person is there and is building their sandcastle, all the while complaining about the waste of lifetime. This is all. Just crying into the universe how a waste of time and a waste of life this is altogether. That's now my reading into the story of Nietzsche's story. That person reads Ecclesiastes saying, vanity of vanities. It's all in vain. So why even bother trying? Why even bother trying? And so that first person builds their sandcastle still, very slowly, very meticulously, but with the bare minimum effort. Bare minimum effort. And we know people like that in our lives. We know people like that in our lives. The second person is the nihilistic person. You thought he was the first one. No, it's not. And that second person cries out, "What's the use? It would all be erased as if nothing existed, with no proof of any of my work or my existence left behind." And that person sits there on the beach, paralyzed, unable to even begin building a sandcastle whatsoever. They're paralyzed with fear of life, obviously, and they are paralyzed with the sadness that overwhelms their life because of that nihilistic perspective. Why bother? Now, the third person, always the third person is the hero of the stories. Every story, you have to wait, The suspense is building. The third person, I think, understood Ecclesiastes' teaching on impermanence and the absence of any substantiality or solidity in life anyway. And that person stares out into the ocean with intense kavanah, with intense intentionality. Whatever time they have, and knowing that all they might build will only ever be made of sand, they set out to build the most beautiful life structure their talent and imagination afford them to build. They do it with complete abandon. They do it from that place, that impossible love that knows all is already lost. Everything is always already broken. They know that in their deepest heart. But it is with joy and with a smile on their face that they still build that fragile, soon-to-be erased sandcastle of their life. They just do it. They live their life. They gift their gifts. Why? As we say in Hebrew, they do all of it lishma, for its own sake, with no expectation of rewards, with no one patting them on the back for the beautiful sandcastles they have built. They don't need any of that. They build the most beautiful sandcastle they can, just because, for its own sake. We love because we love. Period. In French, there is a sentence, l'amour a des raisons que la raison ne connaît pas. Love has reasons that reason doesn't know anything about. We love because we love. Period. If you're expecting anything in return, that's not love. We love because we love. We give because we give. Period. Not because we want to make ourselves feel good about ourselves, not because we want to make other people see us as really giving people. None of that. We give because we give. We give of ourselves. We give of our time. We give of our energy. We give because we give. We receive because we receive as well. It's important to balance both the giving and the receiving. And for some of us, that's even harder. We don't let ourselves be receivers because our society has told us that we need to be autonomous. So to receive love, or to receive support, to receive the gifts from others It's really hard for us because it feels like we're failing at life. God forbid we would receive love from our neighbors, from, you know what I mean? It's like we can't accept others' loving kindness. You make us feel less than. And that's completely, I was going to say a bad word, but it's completely irrelevant. There's too many bulls already in the Torah. We can't add more of those. We love because we love. We give because we give. We receive because we receive. We build because we build. And we'll rebuild because we will rebuild. And then we'll rebuild again. And then we'll rebuild again. And we'll do it lishma, for its own sake. Just because. So we can live because we're alive. And then when we'll die, it's because we die. So you see these sandcastles, they may be empty of any substance, of any solidity. They are impermanent as they are, the sandcastles of our lives themselves. But Kohelet is telling us to still build the most beautiful sandcastle of a life we can. And the last verses of Kohelet, of Ecclesiastes, the gatherer, he says, before all this, know that dust returns to the earth as it was, and breath returns to the source that breathed it. Emptiness upon emptiness, said the gatherer, everything passes away. Everything is fleeting and as insubstantial as breath or vapor. And after all has been heard, the end of the matter is this: faced with reality, be in awe. Faced with reality, be in awe. Regarding right living, be diligent. Eat simply, drink moderately, work meaningfully, and cultivate love and friendship. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Amen. One of my favorite songs, as Jal runs to the piano, slowly but mindfully, is Lev Tahor Brali Elohim. It means a pure heart as Spirit infused and given me, created in me, a pure heart. See, we all have a pure heart. We're not broken, we're not sick, we're not, born in sin. We each of us has been gifted the gift of life, and within that life, a gorgeous, beautiful, astonishing, awesome, pure heart. Lev, that's heart. Tahor, pure.